Hi friends, Mindy here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have another project to share with you. This is another unfinished journal that I have started several months ago, and I want to get this journal finished. So I'm doing a quick flip through so you can kind of see how I have the pages set up. This was actually a kit that I purchased from Kate Marshall at Inked Paper Art back, I want to say in February, I think is when I got it. It's basically kind of a French Bleu theme, and I bought it, I started it, and I just never did anything with it. So I started working on it a couple months ago at a retreat, and I got the signatures made and the journal cover, and that's as far as I got. So you can see these are some of the items that came alongside with the kit. Some of them are antique vintage pieces, and some of them are just, things that will coordinate. Some are prints. This was an old postcard that's actually a vintage postcard. And then there are some reproduction, like blue envelopes. This is an actual vintage letter. It's French. It's got beautiful handwriting in it. So that I probably will just tuck right into the journal. But I also pulled out some of my own papers. These next few pages here are actually some papers that I got from Finland, and I thought they would work in here. I don't know if I'll end up using them or not, since the rest of it is kind of French. I haven't quite decided, but the blue, particularly on this piece, I thought would work well, but it ended up being just a little bit too big for my journal. So I'm just going to kind of show you some of the other pieces here that were a part of that kit. And originally this kit was kind of designed so that you would take basically an 8.5 by 11 size sheet of paper and fold it in half, and that would be the size of the journal. But I've mentioned that before, that I like journals a little bit smaller than that. So you have this big piece here. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with that, because it really is too large for the journal. I may save that for another journal in the future. But I have this one. Mine ended up being about I want to say like 5.5 by 7, something like that. And so I'm starting out with this little postcard here that I just want to be able to save it so that you can see the writing and everything on the back. So I slid that into one of the pockets that was created from a glassine envelope that I put in here. This is some Florentine paper that is just beautiful. The texture of this paper is great. And I have these, this was actually a printout that I had that was in the kit, and I put some coffee dyed paper on the back of these pieces. I cut them out, put some coffee dyed paper on the back, and now I'm going to make some journaling cards out of these. So this one, I'm rounding the corners on here so I can make it a journaling card, and then the other one, I end up actually making this into more of a tag shape, and I will use these beautiful reproduction letters in or envelopes, excuse me, not letters, but I'll use those as journaling spots in my journal. And then I have some other pieces. So I'm just going to go through and start adding to this journal in the same way that you've seen me do some others recently, kind of a start to finish style. Let me know in the description if you'd like to see, or in the comments, excuse me, if you'd like to see more of this journal, more of me filling the pockets and that kind of stuff. I have to say this one was a little bit harder for me to work with, because I'm used to starting with like ephemera that has, images and that kind of stuff. And everything from this kit didn't really have a whole lot of imagery to work with for focal points and those kinds of things. So I'm going to have to go through my stash and pull out some things that I can use to kind of decorate some of the things. But for right now, I'm just taking advantage of these beautiful pocket pieces that I'm making directly from those reproductions of the envelopes. So you basically could have, the way that it was printed, you could have made them into what looked like a postcard or an envelope or whatever. I decided to just cut all of the pieces apart, and that way I can use them as journaling cards or pockets or however I want to, and that way I'm not losing like the beautiful stamp or the script or whatever that's on there. So I'm starting out here again using my really large circle punch just to make a notch in the top of that. I'm going around these to distress the edges just a little bit with archival ink and ground espresso, just so that I have a little bit of color. And then I'm going to glue this one down, and I'll do this for several of these envelopes. I don't want to do it with every single one, although it's tempting because I really love these envelopes. Just the handwriting and everything is on them. And then of course that beautiful blue color is so fun. So I'm just going to kind of flip through back and forth and add things as I go. This is where I was trying to decide if I could use this finished document. I thought it would be fun as a wrap around page, but it's just a little bit too wide to work, and I didn't want to have to trim it down because then I lose all of the fun text and everything on it. So this little card here actually has a song on it, and I really love the backside So I was thinking about, I didn't really want to cover it. In the end, I decided I'm just going to make a little tuck spot out of it. So I am going to kind of lose all the stuff that's on the back, like the copyright and all of those things. But I decided I just really liked it as a pocket. So I'm going to glue it down. I did cut a little bit of the angle off in that top right hand corner, and I'm going to glue it down as a tuck spot. That way I can get a nice large journaling card or tag or something there in that pocket. I'm going to go through here kind of like this. In the end, I think I will actually change that out for something else. But and then this page was actually one that I had folded when I made the signature for the journal. And so I decided I'm going to make this into like a side loading pocket tuck spot. So I cut out the little thumb notch there, and I'm going to glue this down. And then I'm actually going to put that beautiful letter in there eventually. And here's that glassine. I need to open this up though. So the other side was obviously open. I'm just going to make this a top loading. So I'm just cutting that with my scissors so that I have some space to put something there in that pocket. And then I will put something similar to this tag. I'm kind of loading these pockets as I go, but I know myself and they'll probably get moved around a billion times before I'm actually finished. For example, right here, I decided to use a larger tag. I will come back and decorate that tag, but for right now, it just kind of operates as a placeholder. And then here's where I'm going to tuck that letter, that actual vintage letter in that little pocket. And I just think that will be a fun addition. It's nice to have like some vintage actual like real ephemera in there that you can kind of look at and go through along with, you know, pieces that you actually turn into functional items. So this was one of the coin pockets that actually came in the journal. But I decided I'm just going to decorate this. I'm going to cut the flap off and just use it as a pocket instead of having it with a closure, because for some reason the adhesive on it has been activated a little bit, so it's kind of sticky. So I'm just going to cut that off so that I can actually use this. I'll cut a little thumb notch in the top, and I don't mind that it looks like, you know, a coin envelope. I will actually decorate it, but I'm still going to leave a little bit of that color so you know kind of what it is underneath there. I'm using one of my smaller punches for this because I could not get my big hole punch down in there. So I have a little tab, like thumb notch punch that's really meant for that. Most of the time I end up using a circle punch, but anyway, I'm starting off with, this is some of the beautiful French rag paper that came with this kit. And so I'm going to use this, just a strip of it down the side of this policy envelope, I guess, or not a policy envelope. It's actually a coin envelope. Anyway, this is my little pocket here. I'm going to add some of this French rag paper. I love this paper. It just has such a fun, interesting texture. And so I'm going to use that in a lot of different ways. And then, of course, the beautiful font. I am deciding to just go ahead and wrap this around to the back just so that I have a nice clean edge there. And I will trim off the section there at the top. And then also included in this kit that I got was a folio from like a botanical book, and it had like beautiful blue florals and some other florals in there, and it was really meant so that you could add that entire folio into the journal that you created, but I kept mine out. And so what I'm going to do now is take this apart, and I'm going to pull that little section that's just that blue flower. I'm just going to tear everything down using my ruler so I have those kind of nice raw edges. And then I will use this piece right here to decorate the front side of this envelope. And then it's too long, actually. So there's a little section down at the bottom that has some, I'm guessing, like the description of what this plant is. Obviously, it's not in English, so I just tore it down and I used it just like a label at the top. So I didn't want to lose that because it was so pretty, there's the font and everything. So I just glued that up at the top. And then I'm going to actually glue this down on this Florentine paper. And that way I can still feel like I'm able to use this Florentine paper. You could still write over it if you had a bold enough pen, but this way I can glue this down as a little tuck spot so I can actually tuck something behind it. And then I have the shipping tag, that's that blue shipping tag, tucked down inside this pocket as well. So I can get double the space out of that one page there. So now I'm going to create a wraparound pocket with another one of those envelope pieces. I was going to do it right here on this page that I have, but I didn't want to have like the two pockets kind of facing each other like that. So I'm actually going to flip to another part of my journal. I went ahead and I was going to punch this, but I need to figure out how it's going to wrap first. So I'm folding it just so that there's kind of one edge, and it's going to stick out just a little bit off the edge of the paper. So it actually kind of functions like a tab as well. So I'm looking for one of my smaller pages that I can do this so that the tab isn't sticking out past the edges. And then I'm just going to glue this down in the same way that I would glue down another pocket. So I'm going to punch my hole now that I kind of have my fold in there where I need to. And then I will just add the pocket to the edge and then along the bottom, and then I will adhere this to this book paper that I have here in my journal. I'm going to make sure that it's hanging off the edge of that again, just to make like a little tab. And if I had enough space on the back side, you could actually make this like a double tuck spot. I don't have enough space to do that, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue all of this part down, and then I can decorate over the top of that in the journal. But that just kind of functions like a tab, and then I can stick something down there in that little pocket. And that way that page also is useful instead of just being text. And then I decided to use another one of the envelope pieces that has just some beautiful script on there. Again, just making another tuck spot. And I'm trying to flip back and forth from the front of the signature to the back of the signature, just trying to keep everything even. I'm trying not to make sure I have all my pockets at the front or all my pockets at the back. I tend to do that, so I try to be cognizant of that as I'm working. And then I think that's going to do it for me. So I'm just going to show you a quick flip through of everything that I've done so far. Like I said, I would really appreciate it if you left a comment. Let me know if you want to see how this journal comes together, the other things that I decide to add in, how I decorate the pockets and all of that. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. And if you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Also, I will also link my Facebook group and my website where I sell some vintage papers and some journaling supplies as well. That is called chosenandcrafting.com. All my other social links will be in the description. And until next time, bye.